pretty simple deal. These microphones that I use, one of my viewers actually sent me these. They came from Amazon. I looked them up. There's a battery light. This is a battery case. Okay, charge them up just like earbuds. And well, the battery in this was dead. Well, the battery in this was almost completely dead, and it wasn't charging. So you can't go by. You have to go into your phone and look at your settings to see what the battery level on the mic is. So according to this, there was a little bit of battery left, but the mic itself was dead. So fix that. Just charge it overnight. Some people get up in here before we get started. I got good strong coffee brewing, and I got a list of topics. It's not your typical live. I'm not gonna be working on nothing today. Yeah, I don't have anything to work on at the moment. And we're waiting out a pretty nasty snowstorm, which not nasty compared to some parts of the country, but we're looking at like 5 to 8 inches of snow, a little more than we normally get. And as y'all know, I broke my back in 2018. I've got arthritis throughout my body, and metal pins and plates holding me together. I'm like a fat fucking Evel Knievel. So I'm hurting a little bit today. It is what it is. You're going to get a live from a chair. We're going to talk about some stuff. What else can I do other than like polish some stuff or clean some stuff? Tools are organized. Both of my Harleys are good to go. Customers' ATV's fixed. We're just hanging on to it here for him for a little bit. He doesn't have necessarily room to store it, so I told him he could keep it here for a few more weeks. And the other machine, the Suzuki, that one don't got to be done till the spring, so we're awaiting the owner to bring some parts. Okay, not bad, man, not bad at all. Just living life. Had kind of a hard week at work. My day job, putting a lot of overtime this week. Normally, this is my slow time of year, 40 hours, and just is what it is. Things change up. United States Steel, United States Steel does what it does. They decide they're going to do things differently. Well, you're going to work, you know. Yeah, well, when you get a chance, you know, bring parts. And it's my man Harry Upperman calling that. We know him as Charlie. I'm not in a hurry to get that done, and obviously the bike can't be ridden until the spring anyway. And it's not taking up much room. As you can see, I have a complete full bay. I can pull 2 cars in side by side, and the bikes are stacked up there. Workbench is clear. We're going to add some things to that workbench here. I got... Yeah. What's up, Deb? This is Phoenix Motorsports. This is my shop. What's the weirdest thing you've ever found in your beard? I don't know, man. My pit bull picks it out. Either that or my bird. He'll come and pick the crumbs out. Dead bugs and shit from riding. But yeah, this is Phoenix Motorsports. This is my shop. This is what I do. I got a day job, and I fix motorcycles in here in the evenings and weekends for a discounted rate for select customers who can't necessarily afford regular shop rates. I do pretty well on my day job. I don't need to do this. I don't need the money. I do this because I like to do it, and I like to help people, and it puts a little extra money in my pocket. I also I buy non-running bikes or bikes that have mechanical problems off of Facebook Marketplace and stuff like that. Am I pro helmet? I'm going to put it to you this way. I'm pro choice when it comes to helmets, not when it comes to the other thing. Personally, I have bounced my head off the asphalt with and without a helmet, and let me tell you, it hurts a lot less when you wear a helmet. So I wear a helmet. If you choose to not wear a helmet, that's your choice. I mean, I feel like it's up to the person. Like, I have a very close personal friend who rides without a helmet, and then I gave him my spiel, like, dude, I've cracked my head. And he looked at me and goes, yeah, I've seen what you went through in your last bike wreck. I'd rather be dead. So I'd rather crash and not come back. Hey, look, I respect that decision, man. It should be up to the rider. So that's my thing. Personally, I feel you should wear one, but I think it's up to the rider. What's up, Casey D3K? How you doing? So anyways, y'all know what I do here. And like I said, this is just a matter of, I don't really have any work to do today. I wanted to go live. A lot of y'all are new to the channel. I've had a lot of recent subs. And look, man, smoking cigarettes is bad for you. You know what else is bad for you? Watching my videos without liking and subscribing. So do me a favor. You treat that like and subscribe button like it owes you money and smash it for me, will you? It helps the channel. Also throws a couple dollars in my pocket, which helps me create content, because homie's not the kind of guy to go out and just buy a bike just to fix it and make YouTube videos. That's not how I roll. All I need is tires and a battery. Yes, but tires, battery, air filter, spark plugs. The air filter and spark plugs we can get super cheap on eBay, so don't worry about that. But concentrate on tires and a battery right now. You can even, if you want, pick up one of the batteries that you've got to add acid to it and charge it. They're a pain in the ass. It's a process, but they don't generally, in my experience, they don't hold up too well to sitting for a long time. So that'd be a matter, if you want to pick one up now, you can get them for $35-40, and we'll take care of that in the spring. And then once it's ridden off, then it'll be just fine. They just, that type of lead acid cell battery don't hold up well when they sit. So I got a list of topics I made up. If y'all got questions, throw them up in the live chat there about what I do here and what this channel's about. Motorcycle stuff. I'll answer any question. I'm pretty open about my life and everything. She's going to keep it. A good one is best. Yeah, I mean, yeah, you're always better, like, if you would buy an acid AGM, acid glass matte battery, AGM. It's going to last you longer in the long run. I would not necessarily recommend a lithium ion battery. I don't have a lot of experience with them. They're smaller, they're lighter, they're much more expensive. I would just pick up an AGM battery. But being as it's not even going to be fired up really till the spring, I wouldn't worry about that, because it's just going to sit in here. It'll be another bike on the tender, which I got a few extension cords. I'll pick up another battery tender, but I wouldn't necessarily worry about that just yet. Focus on grabbing you a couple tires for that bike. All right, so we got our Saturday shop talk thing. Anybody got any questions up to this point? If not, I'm going to get into my list of topics. Harley Davidson versus Metric. We'll start out with that one. All right. Now, I dispelled a few myths about Harley Davidson in my videos. Are they reliable? Look, dude, it's not 1977. The AMF days are over. Any Harley Davidson built post 1985 is going to be a reliable bike if you take care of it. Q&A sticker. Best thing on toast. I forgot, I ain't got time for that. It's pulling that up in the live Q&A. Anyways, if you take care of it, they do require a little more maintenance than a metric bike. Simply, there's a couple of things, okay? Now, from the factory, they are a push rod engine, and from the factory, they come with solid push rods. Once you have changed your camshaft, you generally are going to end up with adjustable push rods. That's something you got to look at every now and again. They also run an external primary drive. Your metric bikes have a primary drive. In other words, what connects the engine to the transmission is a chain inside the bike you never have to mess with. On a Harley Davidson, you do. 1999 and up twin cam series, not as much. They have an automatic primary chain adjuster, but there is a nylon pad in there that rolls up on the adjuster, and you got to look at it every now and again. You don't have to adjust it. On the Evo series, yeah, you got to get in there in the spring, check the adjustment, crack open the primary, adjust the chain. You also have 3 different oils to change instead of 1, but that's a once a year thing. Harley is like Lada in Russia. Lada. Ah, dude, Lada. Those were like diehard Soviet cars that you couldn't kill, man. I'm kind of a weirdo when it comes to Soviet stuff because I like what the Soviets did with a lot of their cars, trucks, and their motorcycles. They were simple. They were easy to maintain. Sometimes quality control wasn't good, but parts swapped. You could keep them running with nothing. I dig that, man. I'm a weirdo when it comes to Soviet stuff. Like my Second Amendment, my pew pew stuff. I dig Soviet guns. That whole era. Y'all built some really cool stuff, like the air-cooled V8s and stuff. But yeah, he's right. The Ladas were a little more simpler of a car. You can keep them running. You just had to tinker with them a little bit. Older Harley Davidsons, even the Shovelhead era, even the AMF era, they had some problems. And once you addressed them, they were somewhat reliable. You had to be able to fix your bike. And that takes us to another topic on my list. But let's get to the meat and potatoes of this. Do they leak oil? Yeah, if they leak oil, there's a problem. Fix it, because I promise you, every Honda Shadow out there is going to leak oil at the shifter shaft. I can't tell you how many of them I have fixed over the years. That comes from Honda having a weak charging system. All the Shadows, the early Goldwings, they all suffered from that. And when folks would pull the stator side cover off, if you're not super careful putting it back on, you'll put a nick in that little O-ring at the shifter shaft and it'll drip oil right there. They all do it. So if your Harley Davidson is leaking oil, there's something wrong with it, fix it. It's no different than your Honda, Kawasaki, or any other bike that's leaking oil, coolant, or any other fluid. You have a bad seal, you fix it. Now, in the early years of the AMF era, yeah, some of them came with some really shitty castings. The company was failing. They threw together bikes cheap as they could to get them out there and make some money and save the company. And some of the castings were no good. A lot of the myth of Harley Davidson leaking oil came from those years that had an automatic chain oiler that used basically a drip of oil from the engine on the chain, which it's cool. Your chain stayed lubricated that way. You didn't have to maintain it. But when you parked your bike, you would leave a drip of oil. From the Evolution era up, they shouldn't leak oil. Does my Evolution leak? No. I have 2 breather tubes that should go back up into the air cleaner, so any oil mist coming from the engine at high RPM will get sucked in through the carburetor, burned, and out the tailpipe. Since I have an aftermarket carburetor on my bike, those now go down to the ground because I have a wide open air cleaner for more performance. So if you get it on a good hot day and you beat the hell out of it and run it hard, when you park it, yeah, you'll have a few drips of oil. Is what it is. Does it leak? No, that's normal. There are people that made catch cans. There are people who have capped it off. I don't want that. I want my engine to breathe freely, simply because base gaskets and head gaskets are going to last longer. So is what it is. My twin cam, the more modern fuel injected Harley Davidson dresser you've seen in my videos, the white one over there, that is not the case. That bike is all stock. I keep it all stock. The only thing that's been changed is the cam plate. I have a high volume oil pump in it, and I replaced the stock cam chain tensioners with hydraulic cam chain tensioners for longevity. With the stock ones, you've got to go in there every 20 to 30,000 miles and change them. It's not that hard of a job, but if you spend $1,000 to $1,500 on parts in an afternoon of your time, and convert it over to the new style, you now have an engine that you never have to touch, which is what I wanted. A reliable bike that's going to do what I needed to do every time. And honestly, riding that twin cam, and me coming from a person who's only ever dealt with older Harley Davidsons, that twin cam feels like a metric bike. It doesn't vibrate. It's smooth. The power delivery, everything to me feels very, very similar to my VTX 1300 Honda. It does. It just does. And that's what I like about it. That's my daily rider. I take it back and forth to work. This time of year, obviously, we get snow and salt on the roads where I live, so it doesn't get ridden because simply it's too pretty. If it was beat up and ugly looking, scratched and rusted, I wouldn't care. But it looks like it just rolled off the showroom floor 2 years ago, not 20 years ago. So I like to keep it that way. So this year, there's not going to be a lot of winter riding videos. I don't have a beater bike. I normally keep an older touring bike, like an older Goldwing or something like that. I'll run them in the winter. It's got to be something ugly and beat up. If it gets rusted and chipped up, I don't care. And then I'll sell it in the summer. This year, we're not doing that. All the eggs were put into one basket, and then I was getting this shop and getting this house. We really didn't have time to mess with it. And I expected to be doing a lot more wrenching videos than anything else this time of year. Oh man, come on, you bugger. Waiting for the coffee pot to finish over here. But I expected to do a lot more riding videos or wrenching videos this winter than anything else. That's kind of is what it is. Work picks up. I don't really have the time to mess with it at the moment, so you're seeing what you're seeing. A couple of customers' bikes in here that I've dealt with, just fixing stuff for friends, and like I said, the whole mission statement of Phoenix Motorsports. But I wanted to go live. I feel terrible about last week's audio. I did not know the live video didn't have audio. I thought I had it fixed. You guys weren't as active in the chat. I got a lot of views. A lot of people watched it for a couple minutes. Was like, screw this. I can't hear nothing. I ain't watching it. Sorry. So, all right, on to the next topic. So, Harley versus metric. Well, we'll touch one more thing on that. The thing you will generally notice, metric bikes cost less. This is true. But there are certain things. Engine covers are made of plastic. Anything from 20 years ago and up. Switch housings, plastic, cheaper stuff. And if you're a person like me, that bugs me. Like an earlier Honda Shadow, all your engine covers were metal. Same when they got up into the VTX, the valve covers were plastic. I don't like that. I just don't, man. It bugs me. Switch housings being plastic bugs me. The chrome is cheaper on them. That bugs me. They rust quicker. Whereas Harley Davidson, that's where you notice the quality issue on both of them, which is why you can generally find a 20, 30-year-old Harley Davidson still looks like new if it's been taken care of. Try to find a metric bike that's 30 years old that looks new. They're cheaper and people treat them as such. They beat the hell out of them. They often don't maintain them. Some folks do. I can't say all of them because some folks do. And it is what it is. And that's the difference between the two and me. Let's go to the next. Self-maintenance first, taking your bike to a shop. And that ties into another topic, a biker versus a motorcyclist. Well, a biker is a person who fixes his own bike, rides his own bike, lives, sleeps, breathes, eats, shits motorcycles. And he knows his bike down to, every last little thing. If anything feels different on the road, he's going to pull it into a shop and go, hey, man, there was a weird vibration that wasn't there last week. Let me just tear this apart, see what's going on. He knows his machine because he lays them wrenches on his machine himself. Motorcyclist, that's somebody just enjoys riding a motorcycle. In general, a motorcyclist is going to take their bike to a shop, and there's nothing wrong with that. The whole shebang with that is your average shop is going to charge you $100 to $150 an hour labor to do essentially what you can do yourself. I never went to school to do this. Am I a motorcycle mechanic? You're fucking right I am. Did I go to school? No, man. I know how to do what I know how to do because throughout my life, I've always had a motorcycle. There were times I didn't have a car. Like I put one together in an apartment because I didn't have a car. I had a roller toolbox like that. And I literally put together an old Honda 350 in my apartment so that I had a bike to ride. I've had to deal with a lot of stuff as far as older bikes because I refused to go without riding a motorcycle. So I did what I had to do with what I had. And I feel like that's the main difference between a biker and a motorcyclist. You know, if you're sitting back at home wishing you could ride on a nice day because you can't afford a payment on a new bike, come on, man. Sit at home and get on the computer and learn some stuff. Or buy an old beat up bike that doesn't run and go buy a manual for it and learn to work on it yourself. You don't got to spend a lot of money. There's non-running bikes as low as $300 to $500 on Marketplace all day. Maybe you can't afford that new bike right now, but you scrape up $500, bring this other one home, start tearing into it and figuring out what's wrong with it and fixing it. You'll learn something along the way. You'll become immersed in your own motorcycle. Then when you can buy a new bike, you respect it and care for it so much more. Especially if you're old school like me that had to carry tools because your shit would break down on the side of the road. When you get on a nice machine, it means the world to you. It's something that's got to come from the heart. You know, I was almost killed on a motorcycle, and 16 weeks later, I was back up on one. They said I may never walk again. Well, I did, didn't I? You know why I did? I wanted to ride. That was my inspiration of doing damn near the impossible. You know, that's what my life has been about. And that's what this YouTube channel is about. Sharing that love with y'all and teaching y'all how to fix these bikes. You know, that's I feel it's important, man. That coffee maker sucks. We bought a new one, so I took the old one down to the garage. That one sucks. Which goes into another topic. Sobriety. Those of you who don't know, it's a pretty bad drug and alcohol problem. Hey, what's up, man? I can't. That is Cyrillic. I can't. I'd like to read your screen name, but that is definitely Cyrillic. So you're probably, I'm pretty sure that's the name for the Russian alphabet. You're probably watching me from Russia. Strong like bear. I like it. I like it, man. But good deal, man. Cool. Far and wide, Ural motorcycles. Would love to have one. They're a little pricey for what they are for me. Kind of jealous of y'all because I'm sure there's a bunch of older Ural motorcycles over there, just like there's older Harleys and, you know, older metric bikes over here that you can get cheap and fix up. Yeah, when I was younger, I was a lot stronger. But get back into the whole drug and alcohol thing, man. Dobre noc. Pretty sure that means good night. Dobre la noc, I think is good day or good morning. That would be about the extent of the Russian that I know. I can't read that because I don't know any Cyrillic. Yeah, into the topic of sobriety. February the 13th will come 5 years for me without a drink or totally straight edge sober. I drink a lot of coffee. I smoke cigarettes. I drink a lot of diet and zero sugar sodas. That's kind of what accelerated my life and got me into doing this. I wanted something different out of life, and got sober and decided I wanted to open this shop, and that's what I've done. We're not exactly like sanctioned. I don't want to give up my day job. I do this to help people. The whole Rise from the Ashes and Ride thing comes from that. Rise from the Ashes and Ride, to make a dead motorcycle rise up and ride again, and Rise from the Ashes and Ride also a broken life to fix it for the love of motorcycles and ride. And I hope I can do that for some folks. Uh, Simply a lot of times sitting back with a drink in my hand, wishing that I could do what I'm doing right now, and giving up on the alcohol to be able to do what I do right now is why I do what I do right now. And hopefully I can inspire somebody else to take that same path. I don't know any other way to do it. I actually looked into going back to school to be a drug and alcohol counselor, and I would love to do that. The problem with that is, to start out with, after 4 years of school, I would have to take a 50% pay cut. Those folks do not make enough money for what they do. They save lives. I am an equipment operator and truck driver at a steel mill, and I make twice what a drug and alcohol counselor makes at the end of the year, and that sucks. I would like to go down that route and help people that way, but I honestly can't. The lifestyle I live now, I feel like I can help people through YouTube and through my social media posts. A lot of times it seems like I'm bragging on social media. I'm not. I'm trying to inspire, because I got a lot of folks that are on my social media that are still somewhat wrapped up in that life. And I feel like if I could show them pictures of my house, my shop, my bikes, my videos, because they knew me when I was at that level and with the issues that I had. And I'm not necessarily bragging. I'm like, look, man, you could do this too. Like, I'm just a person. I'm no one special, and I did this. You can do this too. And I'm hoping to inspire folks and get them pulled up to that level where they have a reason to, lay the substance down, lay the alcohol down, walk away from the drugs, and start a better life. And I think I'm misunderstood a lot on my social media posts about said things. Because in 5 years, I went from basically homeless to owning a 4-bedroom house with this shop. Couple of beautiful Harley Davidsons. I'm able to help other people. Actually 2 decent cars, and rebuilt my life from nothing, like 400 credit score to an 800 credit score, $20 to my name to 6 months of income in the bank in 5 years. It's been a trip. It is focused all my time. I finally have a little more free time to create the YouTube videos that I create. Next bad habit, I got to give up is smoking, and I know that. How many times I got to tell you, smoking is bad for you. You know what else is bad for you? Watching my videos without liking and subscribing. Hobby versus lifestyle. Okay, it's something that a lot of folks don't understand, that the motorcycle thing can be a hobby, or in the case of a person like me, it is a complete lifestyle. My life revolves around it. There are some folks that just want to, and you can kind of tell the folks that would ride a bike, like, let's rewind a clock 40 years. The folks that would ride a Honda CB 750, that was a hobby. In today's day and age, that would be a person who would maybe ride a metric cruiser, would maybe ride something like a newer Honda Rebel with DCT transmission, possibly a person that would ride a BMW. That'd be a little more of a hobby. You got a bike that you never have to touch, you never have to work on. You don't have to do anything to take it to the dealer and get the oil changed so that your warranty is up. When it's a lifestyle, it's a little bit different, and you don't necessarily have to have a patch on your back or belong to a club to do this as a lifestyle. And oftentimes, when you do said things, well, there's problems that come with it, which is why I don't do the club thing. It's cool if you like it, but it's not for me. I honestly don't like people that much, and I don't like to be around people all like that. And if you're in a club, you're around people constantly. That's part of what being in a club is, and it's just not for me, man. It's cool and all, it's just not for me. I do the group charity rides. I hit a few of them every year. ABATE is pretty cool, and I would like to belong to ABATE, which the acronym stands for Alliance of Bikers Aimed Towards Education. They are the ones who get laws changed to favor, for example, the helmet laws. It's your choice to not wear a helmet in this state. ABATE made that happen. We spoke on that earlier. I feel that it's a rider's personal choice. If you want to wear a helmet, by all means wear one. And if you don't, there's no law that should be there to tell you. You are the only person who is going to be hurt or killed by not wearing a helmet. So you're not hurting anyone else. Why does it have to be illegal? I feel the same way about seatbelts in cars, actually. I feel it should be a personal choice, not a law. But hey, not everybody can think for themselves, and they need a law to tell them what to do. A lot of trends. You think biker, you think guys dressing in black, leather, beard, tattoos, all these boots, whatever. That came from the lifestyle in the mainly post-war era, and that's when a lot of the clubs came up too. Get a little history lesson. Those older bikes from back then, you had to carry tools. It's not that they were unreliable. It's the technology of the time. Even your cars would break down on the side of the road. So you're always getting out your tools and fixing your bike. Your hands are getting grubby and dirty, and you're getting grease all on your clothes. Well, black shirt, doesn't show the grease. So that's where the black came from. Leather, obviously, you wreck and slide down the road. Leather's going to save your butt. So it's not necessarily a fashion statement. Nowadays, it's a fashion statement. But back then, it was a matter of survival. Seatbelt laws are just extra revenue collection. Yes, absolutely they are. Absolutely. It gives the police another reason to pull you over, maybe find something else to look for in your car illegal, and to, make some money. I don't like it. I don't think it should be. I don't think we need a law to tell you to wear a seatbelt. It's up to the person's choice. In modern cars, you're covered with freaking pillows that pop out at you in the form of airbags. It should just be a personal choice. It is what it is. I mean, whatever. I can argue it till I'm blue in the face, and then somebody will get up there, I'm just trying to save your life, as a politician, and they'll pass the law simply because of the revenue. Much like, if you follow the news right now, it's a thing to declassify marijuana, THC, as a lower the classification to basically make it legal on a federal level. I personally don't ever see this happening, simply because certain states have made it legal, but you've got to buy a permit through those states. In the state of Pennsylvania, it costs you around $300 every year. That is a shit ton of revenue going into the state. Now, if you make it legal on a federal level, that state revenue goes away. There are lawmakers that are going to scream and cry all day about it's safer, it's this, it's that, and it boils down to government revenue. They want that money. Plain and simple, is what it is. All you folks out there to think marijuana is going to be legal on a federal level, I got news for you. As long as they're handling it the way it is now and they see what big business it is, it's never going to be legal. I hate to break your heart. Personally, it would help me greatly. Medical marijuana makes my arthritis issues disappear. As soon as they have a breathalyzer for THC, so they can DUI you easier. They have had one since the 2010s. Pennsylvania University, Penn State developed one in the 2010s. We have one. That's the reason, right? You can't tell. There's field sobriety tests. No, they have a breathalyzer that can tell you when the last time you smoked, and it's been around for 15 years now, and it's put into play in some states. It's not put into play in Pennsylvania, and yes, you can get a DUI driving while under the influence of marijuana. You get pulled over, the car reeks like weed, you're all pie-eyed and red-eyed, you're going to get a DUI, as you should, period. Uh, the laws for that in Pennsylvania, if you buy from a dispensary with your dispensary card, the bag is stapled shut and sealed, and if it doesn't remain that way, you're getting a charge. You're only allowed to enjoy it and use it inside your own home. You cannot sit on your porch and enjoy medical marijuana. It has to be inside your home. There are so many laws, and once again, it's a form of revenue. Last I saw on it, it wasn't reliable enough for evidence use. That is 100% possible. I don't look into it much. Doing what I do, working inside United States Steel as a contractor, you can't. If I should go get one of my teeth pulled and I have to take pain pills because of that, I cannot return to work until they are completely out of my system, which would be 3 to 5 days. Is what it is. They don't play. They don't want you on their property. If there's anything in your system, let's say you've got an old pickup truck and you do scrapping as a hobby, and you have a bag of empty cans in the back of your truck because you're going to take them to the scrapyard. If you've got any empty beer cans in that bag, guess what? If they find it on United States Steel property, you are now banned and you cannot come back to work. And I've seen it happen. A guy was at a barbecue over the weekend. He had his truck there. Some people were throwing their beer cans, empty crushed beer cans, in the bed of his truck because he was going to scrap them. His truck, old beat up ratty pickup truck that he drove to work, well, he parked it in the United States Steel parking lot. Security guard saw it. He is now banned for life. They don't play games with that. That's just how they roll. And you got to respect that, or you don't have a job. The jobs pay very well. The benefits are excellent. So it's just a part of it, and which kind of sucks, but it's not going to change. So it's not worth thinking about it. You were a U.S. Steel employee. Yeah. I work out of, what we got here? I watched a show with doctors about THC quick testing. Doc said it will never happen. Labs need to be done to get results that fast. Yes, this is another thing that comes up a lot. CBD is actually awesome for arthritis. The problem with that is your body metabolizes CBD the same way it metabolizes THC. So in a quick test, it will pop, like the pee in a cup test, it will pop for THC, even though you have not ingested any THC whatsoever, which sucks because CBD supplements help arthritis greatly, man. Night and day difference. It takes a few weeks for them to kick in, but it attaches to your fat cells, basically. And as you can see by my videos, I'm kind of fat, right? So if I would take some CBD gummies, 20 days to be clean. That goes by the person's metabolism. We'll get into that. If I would use some CBD gummies to help with my arthritis, it's in my system. My metabolism is not that great. I don't work out like I used to. It's going to stay there for a while and I'm going to pop hot. So I can't do that with my job, which sucks terribly. As far as 20 days to be clean, I got news for you. That goes by person to person. I have personally known people that could quit smoking straight up marijuana for 1 week and pass a test. I can tell you personally, I had to quit years ago for a job, and it took me 3 months. I smoked probably a quarter ounce of high-grade marijuana a week, and it literally took me 3 months to get it all out of my system. So it sucks. Yes, exactly. CDL. It's not, and the same thing with this job, random at any time. We had an employee that having problems with his girlfriend. We're not going to name names, we'll keep it anonymous, but his girlfriend called United States Steel and said, hey, you got a truck driver in here that he's been doing drugs. Well, they pulled him and sent him home. Well, we no longer do on-site testing. And this was on a Friday night, so he had to take the whole weekend off, and Monday go and take his test. Well, he went home, he's fighting with his girl, and instead of going to take his test, he went downtown Pittsburgh to file a PFA, basically get his girlfriend out of his house, out of his life. Because he took his test at 3:45 in the afternoon because he was down Pittsburgh all day, he's now banned for life from the United States Steel. Even though nothing came up in the system, they wanted to see you right then and there to take your test. It's just how they roll. They don't mess around, and it sucks. But I'm a Class B with a tanker as far as CDL. I never bothered with a Class A. Didn't want to work on the road. I've never wanted to go on the road. I don't care. I've driven garbage truck, dump truck, triaxle. I currently operate a roll-off truck. The over-the-road, the work I do is a little more physical. As you know, a roll-off truck, you're in and out of the cab all day. You might have to shovel. You might have to get a pry bar and pry them dumpster doors open and shut. It's more physical, keeps you moving more. It's just a better deal all around. And the jobs are hourly. You get time and a half. You get benefits, but you have to work hard. And that's something that a lot of CDL drivers don't choose to do. A lot of people that I know personally, they do it because they don't want to work hard, which I don't care, man. I've already had to swing a sledgehammer 14 hours a day for $1 more than minimum wage just to live. You know, I was in between jobs. It was the only job that was hired. I took it. So the little bit of hard work I do for what I am compensated for, I'm with it. I used to walk into work and have a nurse waiting with a breathalyzer and a cup. Yeah, dude, we go back maybe 15 years, and United States Steel was like that. They could swab the inside of your mouth, alcohol breathalyzer plus a swab test and a pee test on site. They no longer do that on site. They now have, well, I think the name of the company is Mini Mobile. It's 25-minute drive from United States Steel, and that's how they do it. 5 years ago. Right on. Honestly, I left the steel industry to go haul garbage 2016, 2017, and I just came back 3.5 years ago, and a lot has changed since then. I personally didn't see it, but supposedly that was the rules in play back then. I worked with a guy, and he's long retired now, so I can say it. His nickname was Killer, and he was working inside of a steel mill, night shift, moving dumpsters around. And there was an incident. An employee of another contractor hit his truck. And security saw it, and they came over. And John Killer, he was a character. And he knew that they were going to drug test him. And he knew he could pass a drug test. And he didn't want to work for the rest of the night. He wanted to go take a drug test. So he's looking around when security comes over. He says, hey, you guys got to help me. I got to find my crack pipe. My boss is going to kill me. Where's my crack pipe? And they're like, what did you just say? And the dude's like, yeah, I can't find my crack pipe, man. My boss... You know what happened. They escorted him off the property, took him, and he sat in the hospital for like 8 hours waiting for this drug test. And he played it up the whole time. He ended up getting like 6 hours of overtime out of it. This test come back clear. He goes, I could pass. What's the difference? After they went through all that, nothing happened to him. He didn't get in any trouble. He couldn't get rid of. It was just him being a smart ass runner. He's ready for retirement at that point anyway. He didn't care, but that's how it is. The steel industry is alive and well in Pittsburgh. Some changes are happening. The Nippon Steel merger happened. A lot of folks went crazy on that, and honestly, it has given me a bit of overtime. They're changing a lot of things. They're doing things differently. They're still rolling out coils, slabs, still pumping coke out of Clairton Coke Works. As you know, we had that explosion back in August that sadly took the lives of 2 people, injured one guy really badly. But the plant never shut down. And as a person who was just in there yesterday, I could tell you they're almost rebuilt already. Like, they're going to be online very soon. That has brought so many, that tragedy has brought a lot of jobs to the area. They do a lot of things different now. There's folks that are working around the clock down there to rebuild that. I've wanted to do this as like a moto vlog video for the last couple of years. Unfortunately, I don't get many views on them, but this is something I wanted to do just to do. I wanted to, because I can't take a camera into United States Steel. Okay, I can't even use my cell phone camera in there. You can't do it. They'll fire you, eject you off the property. They don't care. But as far as riding down the road next to the plant on my motorcycle with my GoPro mounted to my helmet, I can do that. I think we had a max of 3 or 4 hours to go once we were headed a cup. Only 10 to 12 ounces of water. Yes. Yeah, there is regulation with that. Being as now how they do with the Mobile Mini, you have from the time they open till the time they close. But that's the way it goes. Now, if you want to chug down a gallon of water before you get there, who's to say you did or you didn't? But if your test comes back inconclusive because you pissed basically water, that's how it goes. You pee again, and if you say, I can't pee, I need a drink, cool, they'll give you it. But just like you're saying, you have a marked amount of water that they'll give you, and you're not allowed to drink any more than that. But where was I? I've lived in this area all my life. The 3 remaining big 3 United States Steel factories that are open, United States Steel, Clairton Works, Urban, and Edgar Thomson plant, are all in this little valley where I live. Obviously, it's a big part of my life. My grandfather worked there. 44 years of service, man. And from the time I was a little kid, going with my mom and my grandma to pick him up from night shift and stuff like that, I had been around those plants. I've never actually been hired by them for whatever reason, but I've worked for several different contractors. And that's the thing that folks don't realize is, from what I can tell, 40% maybe of the employees you see in there work as a contractor for another company. There are so many jobs, man, that prop up this whole valley. Like, dude, I don't know any other life, and I wouldn't want to know any other life. I mean, I like what I do. I love what I do. To know that I'm a part of that, and dude, come on. Those of you who watch my videos, my black Harley are Steelers colors. It's black and yellow. I'm about the Pittsburgh area. That's just me, man. There's nowhere else I'd want to be. I'd like to be somewhere where we didn't get snow in the winter, but this is home to me, man. I plan to live the rest of my days here. I'd like to go see some other parts of the country that I've never seen, but this will always be my home. The tattoo on my chest, that was done when my grandfather passed away. He had dementia real bad at the end of his days, and a lot of times he couldn't remember my name, and he would just stare at the wall when you went to visit him. And if I talked about departments in that steel mill, he would snap back to life, and instead of staring at the wall, he would come alive and start talking about the mill. It was 1965, and I was Joe, his co-worker, not Kevin, his grandson. But he would come back alive, and I figured if that's the last thing he remembered, that's how I'm going to remember him. When he passed away, I had the logo for United States Steel Urban Plant put over my heart here for him, and it's crooked and goofy looking, just like the hand painted sign that I took a picture of. And I know you're not supposed to, but at that point, I didn't even work at United States Steel. I kind of snuck in there and got a picture of that, gave it to my tattoo artist. I needed to look just like that, which that sign is now gone, but it's right there, and those are his initials. You know, that's how I remember him. But yeah, I've wanted to make a moto vlog video showing the different stages from Clairton Mill, which is kind of the heart of it, where they process the coal into coke, which is a carbon product that they use to make steel with. Through that process, gas is given off as they bake the coal into the coke product. That gas goes along a big giant green pipeline that you can actually see in a lot of my riding videos because I take Route 837 a lot. I know the road like the back of my hand. If I'm going to do a moto vlog where I'm talking about a subject, don't like necessarily to be in areas with a lot of traffic. So I'll ride out that road because I know it like the back of my hand. There's not a lot of traffic and you can see that gas line. That gas line feeds the furnaces at Urban Works that heats the slabs of steel up so that they can be smashed down and turned into sheet metal coil. What Urban Works doesn't use goes down to Edgar Thomson. Fuels their blast furnace, fuels their steam-fired power plant, which makes electricity for all of them. So this valley works in a loop, and the head of it is Clairton Mill that produces the energy for all the other mills to work together. Edgar Thomson makes slab steel that gets crushed down into coil steel, which at one point they had the General Motors contract. It's no longer their Fisher body plant. It's now a giant Copart junkyard. You look at an older GM car and you see body by Fisher. That shit was made in my backyard with steel from my backyard. I got to tour that plant when I was in high school. I was going to school to be a machinist at Votech and going to school half a day high school. And that was the goal, to do good, get good grades, get your journeyman's papers, and then go work there. Now, in the mid 1990s, they were paying like $35 an hour back then for general operators. That was your goal, was to work there. And it's sad to see it go and see Henco in Mexico or made in China. And I hope against hope that we could bring that industry back here, because there's a lot of folks that lived a really good life, made really good money in this little valley where you didn't have to have two incomes. The husband could work or the wife could work. One of them could stay home, take care of the house. You could still afford a house, 2 cars, the whole spiel off one income. And sadly, those days are not necessarily gone around here. There are folks still living in that manner, but there are just not as many jobs as there used to be, which sucks. But hey, such is life. Let's hope and pray, that it comes back. Yeah, we're 53 minutes in. I don't know how long we're going to go here. Usually try to keep these down to an hour. Is there anything else on my list? Most reliable versus least reliable motorcycles. We didn't touch on that. And tools. We didn't touch on that. The tool thing with me, I don't work on these bikes to pay my bills. I work on them as a hobby to help other folks and to make a couple extra bucks here and there, which gets rolled into my motorcycle addiction anyway. So I don't go and buy Snap-on tools, power tools. I don't buy Milwaukee, that kind of thing. I generally use a lot of Harbor Freight stuff, and it does the job just fine. There are some differences. A lot of tools I got come from flea markets. I have literally got about 10 millimeter sockets. You lose them, right? Every time I'm at a flea market, if they got individual pals, I'll buy a couple 10 mils just to have them, I was a garbage man for a while. I operated roll-off trucks, and if we would do a Home Depot or a Walmart compactor dumpster, a lot of stuff, like somebody would return a tool set, they didn't want it. It might be a few tools missing. When I dump the dumpster, if I seen it, I would take that shit home. And I've literally, here, let me show you something. Oh, my poor back. Here's a good example. 12 millimeter wrenches. How many? Because simply some of these cheap ones like this, if I have to modify a wrench to get it to fit in a tight area, I have these cheap ones that are basically throwaways. These are the ones I'm going to heat up and bend or grind. As far as tools that I actually use, Pittsburgh from Harbor Freights, I have found that they are tough. They do what I need them to do, and they do it well. And the thing that I like about these, they're smooth. Okay, they feel good in the hand. If you're using a wrench, you see the angle on that? You're in a tight spot, you turn it so far, flip it. Now you have a better bite to turn it farther. So if you know how to use a wrench, you're flipping it as you use it, flipping it. Okay, that smooth finish on them, similar to like a Snap-on, you see what I'm saying, or a Blue Point. That smooth finish makes a big difference if you're using it properly. And as you can see, for a truck driver, my hands are torn up. So something like that you're going to use a lot. I prefer a nice smooth wrench like that. Screwdrivers, obviously, I have a huge assortment of them. Something very important, everybody should have one of these in their toolbox. I've used this so much. Good dead blow hammer. You don't got to go buy a Snap-on one. This is a Pittsburgh one. I've had this for probably 20 years. You need to seat something, even a wrench that you can't, this is one of the most used tools for me. Saw a dead blow hammer. A good torque wrench. Okay, the ones with the dials, your little over here, they work and all that, but this one is a Pittsburgh one as well. 90% of the stuff that I do, I can do with this torque wrench. It's big, it's hard to fit in certain places. You really don't want to use an extension on a torque wrench because you're not going to get an accurate reading. But 90% of the stuff that I do, I can do with one of these. Every toolbox needs to have one of these. Work on bikes. Every person that works on bikes needs one of these. I have 3 or 4 of them. Impact driver set. Basically a screw you can't get out. You lay that on it and crack it with a hammer and it cracks it loose. In fact, I've even got, let me see if it's, I even have a little mini one. Another really invaluable, super cheap tool that you need to have in your toolbox. Let me get the entire set out. Set of these little picks. They're cheap. You can buy expensive ones if you want, but these, you need to have these. There's so many situations where you have something stuck in somewhere to pop a ring out. These are like, I reach for these so often that I feel like everybody should have one in their set. Another invaluable tool. These are not expensive. The Pittsburgh brand, but if you only need them once, trust me, you need them. A long pair of needle nose. These come in a pack of 2. You get these ones and the 90-degree. Dude, it's something as simple as you drop a bolt down into an engine of a car and you can't reach it. These guys will help you so much to get down in there and get them. I bought these for one reason only. I only used them on one job, and that was the carburetors on a GL 1500 in the vacuum system. They're indispensable for that. Yeah, you definitely do. If you're going to mess with carburetors, another indispensable tool. Motion Pro makes them. This is a cheap one. This is a fuel air screw tool. Depending, this will work good for a Honda VTX, but basically got a straight blade here, and you turn that down there, and you can see that turns. So when you're just adjusting a carburetor somewhere deep in and hard to reach, as you know, if you're going to adjust the fuel air mixture, you need to do that with the engine running. So you need the carburetor on the bike. There's a base setting that you set it before you put it together, but to tweak it, this works nicely to get up into there and turn it back here. It's being that this is a cheaper one, there's a little flex in it, so it's not the most accurate, but to set carburetors, You do that by ear and by smell and feel the vibration of the engine, the smell of the exhaust, and you listen to see if the idle goes up and down. Indispensable tool. You get them cheap. This one was maybe 15, 20 bucks. You can spend a lot of money on a good one, but even a cheap one, you should have one in your kit. Do I need to say why you need to have at least one pair of these, if not several? Come on, man. A guy made his whole ass YouTube channel over it. And he's one of the most successful YouTubers in the world, my man Derek Beery. Another thing worth having, this comes from a flea market, a small pipe wrench. I've got big Gigunda ones. This little guy fits in places where other ones won't. This will sometimes save your behind. It's worth having. I have various pliers and such that have come from dumpsters that people threw out. I brought them home, and if I need to modify a pair, I have cheap ones that I can modify, and you know, is what it is. All right, who knows what this is? If you've ever dealt with drum brakes, especially on an older GM truck, you need one of these. But this little pry bar, this is actually a brake adjustment tool. I have used this in countless applications because of the goofy angle. I can get it in places where you can't get a big giant screwdriver. Indispensable. You find them cheap, pick one up, throw it in your box, forget it's there, but you will use it, I promise you. Or you'll drop it on your foot like I just did. A lot of you folks came to my channel because of my Honda Goldwing stuff. Okay, now if you're going to mess with a 1500 series Goldwing, if you're watching this now because you came here from the Goldwing stuff, these are absolutely indispensable. You will have to mess with the carburetors on your GL 1500 at some point. And you will thank me if you buy a set of these. I've only ever used them on the GL 1500. But you need them to get back in there. There's a nose recurve bow. That's yeah, it kind of is. That came for the Royal Star, unfortunately. Yeah, I love that Royal Star, man. I wished I still had that thing. I really do. Unfortunately, as you know, an idiot decided to run a red light, and well, that's the end of that. That actually was an awesome machine. That was one of the coolest machines I've ever owned, actually. And I replaced it, if you're watching the channel, I replaced it with that Harley Davidson Electric Glide because, well, I wanted one. But I'm going to be straight up honest. Mrs. Phoenix Motorsports hates that Electric Glide. She wished I would have bought another Yamaha Royal Star, which, I don't know. Maybe someday we will. Just a cool all-around bike. I basically paid nothing for that bike, you know. I had like $400 into it to get it where it was, and that includes the title transfer. And I was fairly obsessed for a minute. I still might buy one. I was research right on. Obsessed with the Goldwing. I like the Goldwing. I really do. But the deal is the GL 1500. Oh no, okay. You were the. Let me roll this back. I think came here for the roll. Okay, yeah, the Venture. Honestly, if you can find one, buy one. Be prepared to fool around with carburetors. Be prepared to change a stator. Other than that, That's the downfalls that I could find with that particular machine. Be prepared to maybe mess with some wiring, especially if someone has gone in there and changed lights. The factory stators on those, from what I could tell, look like a pretty solid unit, but they're not set up to run a million friggin' Christmas lights all over the bike and fog lights the size of your head. And that's generally what a lot of folks do when they buy the older ones like that. The used ones, they glue all this bullshit on it and it overloads the stator and kills it. But you can solve that simple. A company that I use exclusively when it comes to stators. I appreciate you. Yeah. This just and that, like, dude, as far as the tools, that's my personal experience with them. That's not like, I'm not an expert, but those are in the last, I've worked on bikes all my life, but I really ramped it up, 3 years ago when I fired this back up. And those are what I have used the absolute most in those 3 years. But back to the stator issue. If you're going to go through the process of putting a new stator in your bike, do yourself a favor and spend the extra money. Do not buy a Caltric stator unless you're just fixing the bike as a flip. Then who cares, right? If you're going to keep the bike, especially if it is a GL 1200 Honda Goldwing, because you got 10 to 12 hours, and that's if you're good. 10 to 12 hours labor with an extra person helping you to get that engine out, replace the stator, and put the engine back in. You only want to do that once. Spend the money. Rick's Motorcycle Electric. Buy a Rick's stator. It's going to cost you about $300, but it will handle everything you throw at it and more, and it'll last 30 years. It's worth it. It just is. What are my thoughts on using brass for things like linkages and hardware? Problematic or problematic and practical? Not sure I understand what you mean by that comment. Brass. You're talking about like a brass hammer? Or like a brass drift pin? Absolutely. It's something worth having. Brass screws, things like that. No, I think I'd prefer stainless and stainless steel and a little drop of anti-seize compound on it. Stainless steel reacts funny with aluminum. It'll corrode weird on aluminum. Anything stainless screwed into aluminum tends to be a pain in the rear end to get back apart 10, 15, 20 years later. But a little bit of anti-seize like that puts that coating in between the two, and the corrosion doesn't settle between the two parts that are threaded and mated together, and they'll come right back apart, which most of the stuff I work on, you will see that. Anything I put back together, and I mean anything. I'm weird with that. I put a little drop of that anti-seize and just work it into the threads, simply because the next time you take it apart, it's so much easier. I mean, you look like the friggin' Tin Man when you're done, but so what? It makes your life easier in the long run. Stainless can weld itself for no reason sometimes. Always need some. Yes, you do. I have made the mistake of using used motor oil. Just dip a bolt in it or a little on the threads. That's not always a good idea. And I found that out the hard way. Hydrocarbons and such that get in the oil, and it doesn't always work out well to lubricate threads with. Maybe a little fresh oil, but I'm one of these guys that saves and reuses shit. So use motor oil. Cheap as that anti-seize compound is to get a little tube of it, and just use that. It makes your life easier in the long run. Certain products that I've used over the years that have worked great for me, as far as that goes, oils, compounds, shit like that I will continue to use and that I will recommend every time. And I did a video on this. Rick's Motorcycle Electric Stator. Yep. I did a video on this. If you've got a carbureted motorcycle and you're not using this, you're a dummy. Okay. I had a Honda Goldwing that literally sat for 4 years with fresh gas, this stuff in it. Would it have run on that gas? I am not 100% sure on that because it didn't smell great, but I could tell you when I tore open the carburetors, they looked brand new. Now, I had another bike that the carburetors were rebuilt on prior to me getting it, and it sat for 6 months. That's it, 6 months with just regular gasoline, none of this. And in that video, I showed you the difference. Trust me, you need this. I was talking about using brass instead of stainless. I'd still go with stainless. Brass is soft. If it decides that it's going to strip or gall or anything, you're going to have a hell of a time getting it out of there. Whereas stainless will, you can fight with it. You can clamp vice grips on it. It's not going to break inside there. The advantage to like a brass screw stripping out in somewhere, it'll be easier to drill it out and clean it out of the threads. But you're probably going to have to do that. Whereas stainless is a stronger metal and it'll come out easier. But yeah, every carbureted bike, every tank of gas, use this stuff. It's not that expensive. I think I might have paid $12 for this, and treats 55 gallons. It'll get you through most of the summer of riding. You might buy 2 of them in the summer. Lubing cables, okay? Motorcycle cables periodically need lubed. This is something I found by accident, and it's mainly for garage doors, okay? But metal, okay, night and day, right? This works good. You can lube your clutch label. You can lube your clutch cable without removing everything with this. And it comes out thin like a solvent, but the solvent dries up and you're left with a nice tacky lube. This works great for lubing chains. Copper or nickel based. Either one, man. I happen to have the nickel shit. This, I happen to have that just because that's what they had on the shelf and I grabbed it. Anything's better than nothing is what I'm trying to say. Indisposable. If you got a bike, get this. It's great on chains. Works great for lubing your cables. Trust me, it's so much easier. You can buy a Motion Pro cable lubing kit. You don't need it with this. What we got? You got to keep this around. It's good for so many things. Come on, man. As far as break free to get something loose, simple as it gets. PB Blaster does the job. It does it well. If that doesn't do it, they make this in aerosol now, but I have literally had this for 20 years. I bought this when you couldn't find it in stores. Croyle. Essentially, people have told me that this is nothing more than acetone and transmission fluid mixed, but this will get into places that nothing else will. Croyle. Get you some. I got half a can, and I bought it probably 20 years ago. What else that I use on a regular basis? And I got this from YouTube, from watching my man Derek Beery, Vice Grip Garage. Berryman's. Does the same thing Seafoam does, costs half as much. Cheap. You can throw a little bit in your tank, run it through your bike. I don't believe in doing that with a carbureted bike. It's easy enough to tear down the carbs and clean it, because that, honestly, that ain't going to keep your carburetor clean. You still get settlement down in your bowl. But at the same time, you can use this to clean your carburetor when you tear everything apart and get in there and clean it. This is good enough for that. So keep it around. Where else? What else can we talk about here? Harley Davidson engine oil. This shit does nothing more than thicken up oil. But in the summertime, in my Evo, yeah, I run this. I run VR1, which you really don't need to do with an Evo. Folks will tell you synthetic. Look, that engine was manufactured and designed way before synthetic oils. I don't. I use a mineral oil VR1 that has the zinc and phosphorus, even though it's not a flat tappet cam. It's a roller cam. You don't necessarily need the zinc. The zinc is kind of like a cushioning agent, but it is a high quality oil. I run VR1 2050 in that, and I run this with it. Maybe 20% ratio just to thicken it up, especially in the summer when it gets hot. The Evo works on volume. You don't get a lot of high oil pressure out of an Evo. I've had a lot of guys trip because they made the mistake of putting the oil pressure gauge on their Evo, and then they freak out when they have 3 to 5 pounds of oil pressure at idle. On an Evo, that's normal. Your engine's not worn out. They work on volume. That's just how they're designed to work. You don't need a shit ton of oil pressure on an Evo. On a twin cam, that's a little different story, especially mine having hydraulic cam chain tensioners. You need about 10 to 15 pounds at idle, and then it'll go up to about 40 as the RPMs come up. But on an Evo, you know, what other products have I found that I keep around? It's laying on my bench right here. This shit here will save your motorcycle windshield instead of replacing it. I have a video on basically using this product. Make an old fogged out windshield that you can't see shit out of. Make it usable. You know, again, it's not going to make it look like brand new, but it's going to be usable. Get this shit all in my hands. Obviously, keep a can of grease around. Obvious reasons. And another thing I do, because I'm a weirdo, anytime I do a brake job on something and bleed the brakes, I don't discard the old brake fluid. I keep it around. Simple reasons, okay? If you watch my recent video on basically a backyard kind of rebuild of a motorcycle brake caliper, to get the pistons out of them, a lot of people will use an air compressor. Right on, and that works good. You just take the rubber tip of your jet, blow nozzle and stick it in there, and it'll usually blow the pistons out. Well, the thing is, compressed air is not as strong as compressed fluid, and it doesn't always do the job. So I keep laying around in my shop an old master cylinder. So if I'm going to rebuild a brake caliper, I'll hook that master cylinder up to it, use a couple of C-clamps, and use fluid pressure to pop the pistons out of the master cylinder. What's a lot of fluid that you're going to waste? And folks got on me, oh, you're dirty fluid. Look, brake fluid's not free, so are you going to waste new brake fluid that you have to pay for, or are you going to use this shit here that you've saved? Because all you're doing is using the fluid to pop out the, and this master cylinder is probably never going to get mounted on a bike. This is a backup. It's something I got in a deal where parts were exchanged, and I keep this around just for doing, and I keep the dirty old shitty fluid just for doing that. What we got here? Get you closer so I can read you. Ever heard of Ed's Red? Look it up. That's a homemade gun lube, cleaner residue. It's awesome. It's good on guns. You get hot and dirty. Yeah, right on. Dude, when I did my Second Amendment videos way back in the day when this was Kevin 6154's Guns and Reviews, I used to use a product called Frog Lube. I don't even know if they still make it, but actually I have something from back then, and I keep it down here in the shop. It works good for lubing chains. CLP brake free, and similar to that liquid wrench stuff, it'll come out as a aerosol solvent, and then when it sits, the solvent will evaporate out of it, and what's left behind is the oil. So it works good to clean a gun. It'll do the same thing for your chain. You shoot it down with that and get the dirt and the rust and shit up off of it, and then that shit will evaporate, and what's left behind is a sticky oil coating, which works good. As far as cleaning my guns nowadays, I use Ballistol. I have a can of it I bought 10 years ago. I haven't even used half of it. You only need a couple ounces. Put it on there raw, or you can dilute it with water and spray it down. Hard to get two places. The same thing, the water will evaporate, the oil in the Ballistol will stay behind. For what it is and what it does, it works excellent for me. Man, we're getting on an hour and 20 minutes here. see. What else is indispensable? If you're going to work on your own bike, do yourself a favor. Buy one of these. Soldering iron. Doesn't have to be an expensive one. Any electrical connection should be soldered. Sorry, they got 1,000,001 different connectors. I'm old school. I solder my connections and I shrink wrap them and then I tape them. In my experience of right now, honestly, almost 35 years of working on old motorcycles since I was a little kid, a soldered connection is always better. You could generally, that came with a kit that I bought because, like I said, started from bingo 5 years ago. I literally had nothing left in life, which most of my tools were gone too at that point. But I bought that, and the kit came with this soldering paste, the flux cord solder, this stuff here. You're not supposed to need paste or flux. I'm going to be the first one to tell you that it works 10 times better with it than without it. And that kit comes one of these to clean the old solder off of them. Wire strippers, Pittsburgh, not very expensive. Works great. It just does. These work 10 times better than the universal stripper and crimper. You reused oil, gas, and even radiator coolant when flushing. It makes sense, and you can filter them. If you're exactly, man, exactly. I keep my old waste oil. I generally keep some around for a couple of reasons. Number one, man, I got a fire pit. You want to start a fire? Right on. Pour some waste oil on your friggin' wood, and just maybe an ounce or two of gas to get it started. That waste oil burns slow. That'll get you a fire going nice and quick. You got to lubricate something. Like right here. I don't even remember where I picked this up. I'm sure you can still buy them new. This is filled with used motor oil for little dumb things like lubricating the hood latch on your car. If something like that, used motor oil is going to work better than WD-40. Yeah, this will be up. It'll take a little bit. This will be up. You missed the first hour. That's why I generally try to keep these like an hour or less for rolling into, and we'll go an hour and a half on this and I'll shut it down. The longer I stay live, the longer it takes for the video to process. Electronics for a living, you're not wrong on soldering. Quick point, solder shouldn't make the mechanical connection. Yeah, twist your wires together, paste them up, twist them together. You want the solder to flow into the wires. That's what's up. Something fell. I don't know, and I don't care. But your splay should withstand a decent tug before adding solder. Absolutely. Twist them together like back in the day when you were a kid putting a stereo in your first car and you twisted them together and then taped it. Pull it, just add the solder, and now you actually have a decent connection, I forget that there's lag in these videos, so when I'm reading you guys' comments and I'm commenting on it, it's probably been 5 minutes or so, because if you're commenting on that, we touched on several other subjects in between there. Got a few things coming up this winter here that we're going to add to the shop. They're not going to be expensive items for what they are, but I think we're going to add a 55-gallon compressor. All depends. I'm not wired for 220 in here. With the new heat shrink, as long as you don't over crimp them and break these. Yeah. My stepson is into that. He does car stereos as a hobby for people, and he's all about them new solder crimps. Right on, right on. I'm old school. I try to teach them the old school way. And we just get these. All right, kid. They didn't have them when I learned how to do this. Anyways, definitely want to add an air compressor to here. I'm going to go with the biggest 110 application that I can get. We're not wired for 220. I don't necessarily know if I want to spend the money to have this, garage wired for 220. So if I could find a stand-up that runs on 110, right on, we're going to stick it in the corner. Just picked up a bench grinder. I may pick up another 110 MIG welder. I am not a very good welder. I've tried. I could stick metal to metal, man, and I could make you a hanger for your exhaust and stuff, but you don't want me welding your frame. So I don't really want a big welder. Western Union splices, solder the liquid electrical tape, and heat shrink. I hate wing nut. Yeah, I hate them too. Don't know if I'm overdoing it. Just think like shit should stay put. Yeah, absolutely, man. When it comes to electrical connections, especially if it's somewhere that's a pain in the ass to get to, you want to do the best possible job you can. Plus, a shitty loose connection builds up heat. That heat destroys a stator. Number one reason why stators on GL 1200s go bad is the shitty connectors that Honda came with. And that's the hot ticket. If you find an old GL 1200 that's still pushing good amperage in low miles, pop it apart, get in there and look. If it has the factory connector for the stator, cut it, solder the wires together. As long as you don't go crazy with extra lights all over the bike, you'll get a lot of longevity out of the stator. What kills the stator is heat, and weak electrical connections builds up heat. Which is what drives me nuts when people put them stupid LED lights on their bike. As you know, if you've watched my videos, I have them on my electric glide, but they were installed by a professional. All the connections are good, soldered. So I'm with it. I left them on there. Charlie Suzuki here, whoever put them on or didn't do the greatest job. That's something we could be doing now, but that's something he wants done, is all of those ripped off for that reason. It's just always better to have a good electronic connection. You know, a little Burns-O-Matic plumber's torch and some MAP gas. That's something you should have in your shop too. I can't tell you, it just recently here, taking the brakes apart or taking the rear wheel off of that bike. It hasn't come off in 5 years. The bolt on the brake drum stabilizer bar was just being a little tough with me and didn't want to move. I warmed it up for probably 45 seconds with a MAP torch. Not even hot, but just a little bit after soaking it, came right off. And I feel if you leave a little bit of extra wire in the culprit and loop it, you have a problem in the road. You can just redo it without returning to the hole. Absolutely. That's something that's invaluable, man. If you're going to solder a connection, leave it a little long. As long as you have the room to stuff the wire in there, later on down the road, you're not going to be pissed off tracing it all the way back to the beginning and chopping it and going back. I have completely made motorcycle wiring harnesses from scratch because I had to, and that's something you think ahead and do. I really wished I had pictures. I wish cell phones were a thing back when I did this. I wished I could have done this back when I did this in the late 90s. I built a Honda CB750 hardtail chopper and did it in a basement and had to build the wiring harness from scratch because the bike that I took it from, there was nothing left of it. And I was simple as it would get. I needed a wire to charge. I needed ignition, and I needed a headlight and tail light because that's all that bike had. Yeah, it's been a pretty successful live so far, man. I think we're going to get ready and shut her down here. Yes. Not necessarily arcing, just not a solid connection. Doesn't necessarily have to be sparking, but the clips, even on a Rix stator for a GL 1200, I still cut that connector off and I solder them. That kills a stator, a weak connection, and that goes for anything electrical on the bike. When you overload the system with extra lights, you create heat. Heat kills the stator. The stator has to work harder. It gets hot when you tear it out. I don't have a burned up one here to show you, but you know a bad stator when you look at it. You can see it's all burned up. But yeah, that's your deal on them. That's number one deal on them. You should be seeing my Goldwing pretty soon here. Actually, two of the ones that I worked on. Yeah, you should be seeing two of the Goldwings that were on here in the past really soon. The one that I gave away there, that kid's going to spend the winter working on it. He's got it pretty close, but the whole wiring system, a mouse got into it. It's bad, so he's got to redo the whole thing from scratch. The guy's like me. He works a ton of hours. He's doing YouTube. CJ, shout out to you, man. Hopefully in the spring you'll see that one running. And the bike that I called the Big Brown Beaver, it was a like beige gold colored GL 1200 Goldwing. I got it. It ran, not great, but it ran. Had a shit ton of electrical problems that I had to fix. Carburetors needed tune. I got it up and running good, threw some tires and brakes at it, and sent it down the road. That one ended up in rotation. Another customer of mine was looking for a better bike, and I found my old bike on Marketplace because I scan Marketplace for deals all the time. I was like, dude, they only want $1,000 for this bike. And as far as I could tell, all it needs is a battery. I showed him all the old videos. I was like, if you want like a bigger bike to get into this, because he's not sure how deep into motorcycles he wants to get, I was like, this would be a good one to buy. Motherfucker bought it sight unseen. He rode it home, rode it around a little bit, and then his life got too busy to fool with it. But hopefully you'll see it. He's going to bring it over here in the spring for me to just go over and make sure it's good to go. But hopefully you'll see it up and running. And that kind of makes this worthwhile for me to do. You know, seeing bikes that I worked on and brought back from the dead and they're still out there being enjoyed, that warms my heart. When I leave a tape zigzag on a wire, I have to tug it like in a tail light in the truck. It gives you bungee effect instead of pulling it loose. Yeah, exactly. All right, folks. We're at 1 hour and 33 minutes. I'm going to go ahead and shut her down for today. I'm waiting for this big old snowstorm to hit. My back's killing me. And I think I'm going to go watch some Vice Grip Garage. He's doing a revive and drive on a Cadillac Alante. It's a long video. So I'm going to finish my last cup of coffee here, shut her down, and I'm going to go watch some YouTube in my recliner and just rest up my back because I should be shoveling snow later. Just what I don't want to do, but saving my back for that activity. And hopefully we'll have some more stuff going on. It's the end of the year. United States Steel is kicking ass and taking numbers and getting everything done for the end of the year. So I've got a busy work schedule. I'm at like 55, 60 hours a week, which normally right now I'm at 40, barely. So at the end of a 12-hour day, you're not going to really see me down here in the garage unless I got a customer's bike that, you know, they need done and I want that money in my hand, you know. So as of now, my life is focused around my day job. That's what keeps the lights on here. That's what pays the bills and does what I do. You won't see a whole lot of stuff. We'll try to get you alive at least an hour every Saturday. If I have nothing else to do, I'll do one of these question and answer type thing for y'all. Y'all get to know me and what I do. I feel like that's part of what I do here. I don't like impersonal technical videos. I like when you get to know the person, you know. So that's part of what I do here. And yeah, I will catch you guys later. Do me a favor, like and subscribe, man. Treat that like and subscribe button like it owes you money and smash it for me, man. I'm out. Catch you later.